Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk Housing. My name is Brennan Thomas, and I am the co-host here alongside Mr. Stephen Thomas, the chief economist and founder of Reports on Housing. We will discuss the most recent news and statistics, of course, the lock-in effect, mortgage rates, home prices, portable mortgages, and much, much more. But first, like usual, Stephen, what is going on in the Thomas household?
Well, I got a haircut. Seems like the same old, same old. Kids are busy wrapping up this school year. Got the kid in track. She's running faster and faster and her main event is the 1600 mile, and then got a couple other kids in soccer. Got one that's running a marathon in May, and then we have Ezekiel, who has just been invited to birthday party after birthday party for a whole bunch of 6-year-olds. I mean, it's just this normal grind when you got a lot of kids. So sometimes we feel more like chauffeurs than anything else. But what's going on in your neck of the woods there, Brennan Joseph Thomas?
Pretty same old with me. Not much going on. I mean, soccer, obviously, like usual for me. Arsenal. It's been a lot recently. We lost a couple games. It was pretty heartbreaking to see, but we are still in it to win it, hopefully. And we only have like a couple more games to go, so it's like really starting to get nerve wracking, and every single game matters, and it's just an insane experience. But I'm happy just to tag along and watch it because I'm enjoying every second of this. So, but like usual, what's going on in the real estate world with supply, demand, and our very own expected market time?
So right now we're actually getting inventories are growing, and inventories are growing at a faster pace than they did last year. Not as fast as they did in 2022 when rates went from 3.25 to over 7% by the time we hit October. That was such a giant change that we had a big, giant increase in supply. This time around, it's a bit different. We are getting more inventory, just not as much as 2022. Demand has it is it is very, very similar to last year at this time. As a matter of fact, when we blend March, which was a slower month for closed sales, with January and February, overall, what we've seen is flat sales. So not a big increase in closed sales across the board. And so we're kind of getting the same thing as last year, and that will continue. And so we're bumping along a bottom as far as demand's concerned. We did have a few more homes come on the market, but with interest rates elevated above 7%, it's precluding a lot of homeowners from placing their homes on the market. If interest rates were just below 7% in the sixes, that's that big psychological barrier. We'd actually see more homes coming on the market. So we did see more homes coming on the market, but when you look at where we were last year versus this year, the gap was wider in January, and it's starting to narrow with higher rates. So what we need is for rates to come down a little bit more so that more homeowners opt to go in because we're below that 7% barrier. So as a result of inventories climbing and demand staying flat or even going down slightly, what we're seeing is that the market is slowing. So when you're in the marketplace, and if you're in the marketplace, you're going, what in the crow is Stephen talking about? And that's because you could see it in the numbers when the expected market time, that our statistic is really how fast the market is blowing. I've had a lot of agents go, well, I sell my houses instantly, and your expected market time is like 40 days. That is for everything on the market. What's the absorption rate based upon pending sales and active listings? And what we're seeing right now is that it's slowing from, like, let's say it's 60 to 62. You're not going to notice that in the marketplace, but we're seeing this trend develop, and that's what we're watching, trends, and we're reporting on those trends. So the market overall is slowing because of rises in inventory.
So recently we've had a couple economic releases, which you and I have seen that the reactions to are a bit wish-washy. So can you describe what economic releases that we've seen and
Yeah.
how they resulted?
Yeah, this week we had GDP and personal consumption expenditure, PCE. GDP came out and it was way less than expectations. Expectations were for this thing to continue to be hot, a little bit cooler than last year at 2.5%, and it didn't quite make it. It was like 1.6, so it was well below expectations, like so far below. Yeah, and we have inflation that's sticky. If you look at CPI, it looks like it's going up, and if you look at headline inflation looks like it's going up, but that's because of gasoline prices. Really, you look at core, and core CPI, not really the best measure. The real measure is PCE. That came out today, and it was flat. So it's been stuck where it's come down, and now it's stuck right now at 2.8% is where it's stuck at year over year. So it's right now not really moving. It's very, very sticky. And they have this target of 2%, which is completely arbitrary. They made this thing up. The European country did it in 1990s, and the United States didn't even adopt it till 2012. So if you wonder where this comes from, and that's why they're so adamant about getting to back down to 2%, this is all new and it's just arbitrary. So really, we're having a hard time getting down to that 2% level. So what everybody's saying is, well, inflation is entrenched and it's going to go up and things like that. It's not. That's not really what's going on right now. It's having a hard time going down further from where it's at, stuck at just below 3%. And what they're saying is that, oh, well, GDP is going down and yet inflation is, according to CPI, going up. We might have stagflation. And so now you're going to hear about this stagflation. And stagflation is when you have inflation going up, which it's not, and you have the economy slowing down or even going negative. So if you have a negative economy with unemployment going up and the economy slow but inflation out of control, that's what stagflation is. So the Wall Street likes investors, they like to jump to conclusions, and that's exactly what they did to this thing. With this thing, they said, "Oh my gosh, stagflation," and everybody bought it. And then all of a sudden, you saw a big giant rise in interest rates. And as a matter of fact, when GDP came out, interest rates rose to the highest level that they've been all year long. Then PCE came out today, and what did PCE do? It was like I said, it was flat. The headline was higher, and people were going, "Oh, look, headline includes gasoline. They have no control over gasoline. That is, it has more to do with supplies around the world and stuff like that." So as a result, you have to look at core. Core was flat. It's not going up. It's not going down. It's right at expectations. And so where that is doesn't really show that it's going up or it's out of control. The stagflation story is kind of is a little bit overblown. So guess what happened to interest rates today? They went down. So we're off of those highs for the year, and they went down just below 7.5%. But all these reports, one after another, is doing nobody any favors. And I've said it before. I go to on Sunday, I get down on my knees and I pray for the housing industry, buyers, sellers, people that want to move because they can't because of this current circumstances. There just are not enough sales, and yet once again, God is saying you got to be more patient. It's not happening yet.
So with rates on the rise recently, which are now hovering around 7.5%, would you say less listings are entering the market and we are seeing what feels like a second wave of the golden handcuffs?
Yeah, like I said, I've seen that the we once it gets above 7%, 7% is that psychological barrier where we start to see fewer homeowners come on than would have if it was below 7%. And you could just see that because at the very, very start of the year, when we were near 6.5%, we had a lot of people going, "Yay, I'm going to go into the market." But once you're above 7%, and I've had audiences after audience doing presentations, and they even feel the same thing. I've had some people say that they have less than a 3% mortgage and they're planning on moving within the next couple of years. But one of the things they said is they want to see interest rates lower, and they into the sixes at least for some people that want to do it soon, and into the fives for others that want to do it later. So it really does make a difference where rates are as to how many people will actually come on. And when they're above 7%, we are growing inventory. I'm just afraid it's just there's more people that are accumulating because of the timing of the year. There are more homes that come on the market at this time of the year. It's spring, and we would have more success stories if we were below that 7% threshold. So instead, we're accumulating these, and they're growing on the market, but not at any alarming pace. And we're well off of where we were prior to COVID.
So, is it safe to say, in comparison to historical years, that our current market is considered a paralyzed market?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the term paralyzed, but the term that I like is not much better. It's frozen. So, and that just has to do with the recessionary nature of housing right now. We're not in recession in values because there's just such limited inventory, but because homeowners are not coming on and there's a limited inventory, and because interest rates are so high and there's limited demand, there are a lot of people that want to purchase but just simply won't or can't because of where rates are at today. And there are a lot of people that would like to list today but won't because of how low their fixed rates are. And these high rates aren't helping out anything. So what it's done, it's gummed up everything so that we're doing fewer and fewer transactions. The only thing that ungums this up and creates a thawing effect is for rates to fall. We saw at the beginning of the year, just at 6.5%, or just right north of 6.5%, we saw a thawing of the market. And then we've been above 7% for some duration now, and because we're above 7% for quite some time, this is where you start to feel that things are gumming up a little bit. We need rates to come down, so we are watching every single data point for any hints and signs that the overall economy is slowing. I know it will. So do most economists. They know it's coming. It's just not right now.
As a short term fix, would you say that we need portable mortgages until rates drop or even after?
I mean, that's something we can look at. But by the time legislatures get around to even agreeing upon something, this is going to be done, and we're going to have rates that are lower. So I'm not holding my breath for any of the government, any government entity getting together and figuring things out. It's like an exercise in futility. Talking about it is one thing until they're really prepared to actually legislate. They know that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter red or blue. Housing is something that helps the overall economy. It helps out. It helps out both sides of the equation. It also helps out the more that they can do to relieve the supply side of the transaction. The problem is that even if they entice more of these homeowners to move, they in turn, most of them will turn around and purchase something else because it's the portability of their rate. So now they go purchase something else. Yeah, it creates a home on the market, but they're going to go out and purchase something. So it creates more movement, which is important because there is an economic ripple effect that so many different hands in a real estate transaction, including after it closes, so many trade groups and construction workers and people that do flooring, everybody connected to real estate, that it will create more of there will be an economic ripple effect if they were to free that up. But unfortunately, I just don't hear a lot of talk about it. But it would definitely help things, and they got to look at other things to help on the supply side as well. But we definitely have a lot of suggestions as well if anybody wants to listen to them.
So, with the volatility of interest rates that we've seen recently, are the days of trusting mortgage rate predictions over?
Yeah, mortgage rate predictions. Anyways, it's I refer to it as like playing darts, and it's playing darts after having a few brewskis or something, or your favorite cocktail, because your accuracy goes down the hill after you've had a couple of drinks. That is how I have talked about it before. I have not. You can talk about ranges that things go, and right now there's such volatility that the ranges are even larger than what we have, what we experienced from 2012 all the way through 2019. Ever since then, the volatility of rates has been so unpredictable. Actually, it was somewhat predictable even from once rates started to go down. There was really, really low rates. There was a predictable factor of it where we didn't see a big movement within, a 0.5%. And now we have these big, gigantic swings. We were 8 in October, 6.5 in December. We're back up to 7.5 right now after being at 6.5 at the start of the year. It's just, there's such wild swings. We're not used to that. So it's made it even more challenging to today. It will get better, but even down the road, it's still not, it's very, very hard to read the tea leaves that far in the future.
With 39% of homeowners owning their homes mortgage free, is there something we can do to help the inventory crisis besides build on the limited land that we have?
Yeah, I there are ideas that are out there. Really, we do need to figure out a way of building more and being more creative in building where I've talked about it many times on this podcast and other places as well. There are all these old dilapidated centers where, shoot, if you were to zone these things so that it would be mixed use, you can even have properties. You can have properties above all the mixed use, all the retail below, and then you have condominiums above it. There are definite solutions to this. The biggest solution to this is actually going to be to get rid of a lot of the red tape for builders. They will get more creative. They will go after things. They will throw money at it. If we can get rid of a lot of the red tape and how much it costs to actually build, they would be even more involved, more inclined to purchase, to build and build even smaller stuff that's more affordable. And there can be incentives if they get rid of the red tape besides incentivizing builders to build on the lower end. I think that's what we need to do because we need more entry level housing. That's where, when we're doing our analysis, the last report we did, we saw the biggest hiccup in real estate right now is the entry level areas. If you want that starter home, those people are stuck in their mortgages and are not moving more so than the people in the upper ranges. So you've got that they're stuck in the lower ranges. So we actually have fewer closed sales in the lower ranges. And yet that is where most of the first time home buyers activity is. And instead we have more movement, more homes coming in the market and more closed sales in the upper ranges. And it's not even luxury. It's the starter home is where the problem is, and that's where we need to start to focus more than anywhere else. Otherwise, we're going to have quite a problem down the road of this disparity between the haves and the have-nots. You either own or rent, and we can't go down that rabbit's hole. So there's got to be some solutions down the road.
Mortgage payments nationally hit an all-time high of 2750. For California, that may not sound like a lot, but for a national level, hitting a new all-time high among really high interest rates and values is concerning. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it boils down to, the people make more in California, so they can afford more. But it's still a shock where monthly payments are in California. But that 2750 in the rest of the country, that's a shock from what they're paying right now or what they're renting right now. So the problem is it's the shock, it's the move up. They're used to a certain lifestyle, and all of a sudden they're going to have to be ponying up that much more. It causes a problem for outside of California, just as it does right here. And this is the only real cure to this is a collapse in rates. So that new all time high illustrates the shock value of it for everybody across the board. We're shocked here in California because of how expensive it is. If they were to even see what we were looking at, they would of course be just flabbergasted. But in the rest of the country, they're already flabbergasted with how much it is to afford down the street a house, and they're saying I can't do it because that's not what they're used to on a monthly expense. If all of a sudden if they're paying like $1,750 for a rental and they're looking at $2,750, they're wondering how in the world am I going to come up with an extra $1,000 per month? And that's the issue that they're facing, just like what the Californians are facing a similar issue. It's just the shock value of it all.
So someone spoke on Twitter on wanting to downsize, but mortgage payments would increase by 50% is their issue. Is this a more common theme than one may think?
Yeah, really, and this is something that I probably will have to do a housing debrief on to illustrate more of the whole trap. And you could actually see it that even if you downsize, your payment's going to go up. Part of that, I used an example. I think we talked about this a bit in the car yesterday. Traveling up the Bay Area to speak. We went from like a house. Let's say here, people are going to be flabbergasted. Once again, my word today is flabbergasted. Maybe that'll be the title of the of this. Uh, it will be flabbergasted because that's exactly what we're doing in this podcast. Yes, but going from $500,000 to $1 million, which is more normal for California, you're now doubling you're able to sell for $1 million. Now, if you sold for $1 million and now you're going to buy at $750,000, you were paying in property taxes $5,000 or $5,500, and now you're going to pay close to $5,000 versus $8,000 per year in property taxes. That's a big jump for the year. Uh, that's huge. And then they're taking their what they had payment wise at $500,000 with their fixed rate payment. Let's say it's at 3%, 3.5%. And now you plug in a $750,000 with 7.5%. You can see what's going to happen. It's a huge amount. You add that to the property taxes, and the next thing you know, I'm paying more for my house. This doesn't make any sense. So that was interesting to see that you had brought that up and talked about with me yesterday. I was going, I got to do a housing debrief on this just to help illustrate it so that people could actually see it. And yes, this is part of why rates need to come down in order for more homeowners to be more inclined to purchase. That we've talked about it, the delta between where their interest rate is and what the prevailing interest rate is of the day. And right now it's so wide, but as they shrink and come together, and as the years progress, they're making more income because remember, these rates started to go up a couple of years ago. Right now, they were starting to really skyrocket. So it's been 2 years of enjoying these really high rates, but after a while, you're going, all right, I've waited long enough. I want to get in. So it just has to come down a little bit so that that delta isn't as big. And a lot of these homeowners will actually opt to make make a decision to place their homes on the market and buy something else.
As a way to try and create more inventory, we have seen multiple different counties and places placing a ban on short term rentals. Inadvertently, did they help people afford second homes? In this case, the houses serve less of a purpose.
Yeah, it really it's the ban on short term rentals. There, it's not going to create that many more homeowners. It's not going to create a lot of sellers. It just creates more either second homes, like what you said, or they actually turn into rentals. So long term rentals. It wasn't really the. It wasn't really the. Didn't have the results that a lot of them legislatures wanted. And of course, who do you think would back this thing up entirely? And there's a big lobby this lobby party that was a big part of this, and that is hotels. Why do they want to see short-term rentals go away? So that you'll book a room. But the problem is, it's just not going to go away completely. It's just that there are some communities and some cities that are falling prey to this. One of those being New York City, and so the hotel industry is the one that made off like this, and they can of course then increase their rates because now they don't have as much competition. So it's a lot more profitable for them to have short-term rentals out of their city. So you got to look at the other side, the flip side of the of this, and what's the rationale and reasoning behind it. And I understand maybe doing some limits on it and looking at different ways so that you don't have too much of it. You've got to curtail it. But to say cold turkey, you just can't have it in an area, and that's not gonna be something that happens a ripple effect across the country. But and we'll get more results from what happens in New York City, and people will look at that and they'll say, "Huh, didn't quite have the effect that they thought." So I don't think that it's going to be something that catches on down the road.
People are now believing, with the new settlement practices finalizing in the next few months, that people will now not only have to bid for houses, but also for agents. Is this statement true with how specialized the industry can become?
The process is so huge that you have to work with somebody that's knowledgeable and knows what they want, what they're doing. Um, to find some discount person to, if you're a buyer and you're going, yeah, I don't want to really pay anything. Well, at the end of the day, you're going to get what you paid for, period. And so that's what's going to happen from that. And we don't even know how this is all going to work out. How many sellers out there are still going to be paying for a buyer's compensation, a buyer's agent's compensation? That can still continue. I've said it before. If I wanted to open up my home to as many buyers as possible, I'm going to offer some sort of buyer's agent compensation, because I want to compensate that other side. I want to open it up to as many buyers as possible. Because remember, when if you're going to not offer that kind of compensation and they're going to have to pay for buyers, these first time home buyers, the people that are looking, especially in the entry level ranges, they're barely scraping together a down payment. How in the world are they going to be able to scrape together some sort of ability to pay an agent on top of that? So at the end of the day, if they're going to be out there trying to purchase a home, where are they going to go? You could say they could go to listing agent altogether, but what listing agent's going to want to work both sides of that transaction for the same amount that they're already getting from their seller? So there has to be some sort of compensation for that buy side. And if they don't do that, those FHA buyers, those VA buyers that can't have they can't have these closing costs paid. They can't pay out of pocket for a buyer's agent. There's some things that have to happen, but it's just you're gonna limit your buyer pool. So uh, it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. This is all speculation at this point as to how it's all going to materialize, but yeah, I just don't see that we're going to be bidding for agents. There's a whole bunch of different articles that go on, but really, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be looking for somebody whoever's the lowest bidder, because you'll find somebody that will pay that will do it for very little. But now, what kind of representation are you going to get? What kind of experience are you going to get? You want to make sure that you're going with an agent that can not only negotiate, knows the whole entire process, will make sure that they dot all their I's, cross all their T's, and you've got all the inspections and everything all done properly, so that you can avoid being sued down the road. That's the last thing you want to do, is be involved in some sort of kind of litigation. And that's what this is all about. And that is the advantages to working with an expert. It's really leveraging your success as a buyer. So that's worth something. We're going to find out exactly what it is. Free market system coming, starting in the middle of July.
Freddie Mac has updated the U.S. Home Price Index for 2024 and 2025, with both predicted to increase by half a percentage point for each year, so 0.5%. Is it possible, if rates stay this elevated, that demand will be so mute, supply will build, therefore creating downwards pressure on home prices?
There already is a lot of downward pressure on home prices. You've seen it with where inventories levels are today across the country, 1,100,000. Compare that to the Great Recession, even prior to the Great Recession, where we had 4 million homes on the market. There's just not enough homes on the market. There were about 2 million homes on the market, right, give or take, right there prior to the pandemic. We just don't have enough homes on the market, period. And so based upon where supply is, it's the limiting factor is where rates are at. And the higher rates go, the more pressure it places on it, so that yeah, you can be down a little bit, but we have such limited inventory that there's not enough pressure to really materially bring prices down. I can see that if they remain elevated at this right around the 7.5% or 7% plus with duration, that yeah, I could actually make a simple case for values going down 0.5%. That's not a lot at the end of the day. So not when we were used to 5% per annum appreciation during the expansion years from 2013 through 2019. So yeah, I see that it's just keeping a lid on it when it's above 7% like it is right now. That's enough pressure. We're slightly down. As soon as we get through the spring market and roll into the summer, there'll be more pressure because it's just slower seasons coming.
Well, thank you everyone again for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk Housing. Now, if you want to learn more about what is going on in the real estate industry across Southern California or the Bay Area, please feel free to check out our YouTube or subscribe today at reportsonhousing.com. Please leave us a good review. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave it on any of our social media platforms, or you can email me at info@reportsonhousing.com. We will see you soon and have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you.